All right, hello everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today we are setting out to uncover a truly profound mystery. And the crazy thing is, it's one that's been hiding in plain sight for literally millennia. We're going to explore this absolutely fascinating concept that somehow bridges ancient philosophy, the literal mechanics of the universe, and, wait for it, a tabletop game you've probably played with your family. It's a journey that is going to completely challenge how you think about logic, luck, and really the underlying fabric of reality itself. So, let's get into it. Let's start things off with a massive question. What is the true root of Chinese culture? Just think about that for a second. If I asked you to guess right now, what immediately comes to mind? For most of us, the immediate answers are the big three, right? Confucianism, Buddhism, or Taoism. These are the classic pillars we're universally taught to associate with Eastern philosophy. But what if the real foundation is actually something entirely different? Okay, let's dive into this. Our source text today argues that the major vein of Chinese culture isn't actually what intellectuals usually cite. It's not the big three. It is actually something called Hundun, which is very often translated into English as chaos. The author makes this really interesting point that when intellectuals call for the revival of Chinese culture, they often don't even realize that what they are truly calling for is the revival of Hundun culture. Now hold on. When we hear the word chaos, we naturally think of disorder, randomness, or just, a total mess. But our text clarifies that this is a huge misconception. Hundun is not messy chaos at all. Actually, scratch that. It's the exact opposite. It's a meticulous, absolutely loophole-free cosmic order. It refers to the deeply intertwined, holographic state of the universe. It's an order that is so incredibly vast and complex that to our very limited human perception, it merely looks like randomness. Now, what's really interesting about this is how it illustrates this holographic nature of the universe. In a Hundunic state, absolutely no object or phenomenon exists independently. Its immense scale encompasses literally everything, yet it's small enough to exclude nothing. The source gives us these wild, hyper-specific examples to anchor the abstract concept. It says, imagine an Alaskan butterfly flaps its wings, and boom, it triggers a storm at the Cape of Good Hope in South Africa. Or an Arctic Inuit coughs, and seemingly as a direct result, someone in Australia falls from a building. It sounds crazy, but it highlights how everything is constantly in a state of invisible, deeply unified connection. It's like a giant cosmic web. So how does all this abstract cosmic stuff build into actual human understanding? Well, according to the text, the cultural ancestor of the Chinese nation, Huxi, actually mapped out this exact cosmic chain reaction. Through his spiritual connection with the universe, he gave us tools like the Bagua, or the 8 trigrams. You can think of it as a progression. It starts from the ultimate nothingness of Wuji, which shifts to Taiji, then splits into Yin and Yang, which then generates the 4 symbols, moving into the 8 trigrams, and finally expanding into the 64 hexagrams. And those 64 hexagrams supposedly give rise to all phenomena in the universe. By understanding these transformations, ancient thinkers believed we could finally grasp the interplay between change and permanence. So the big question is, how do we grasp it today? The source outlines 4 key portals to approach and understand Hundun culture. First, there's revelation, which means observing celestial phenomena and nature to directly connect with the source. Second is the Bagua, which we literally just discussed. Third is studying the ancient teacher Huzi, who skillfully applied these principles. And finally, Mahjong. Yes, the common tabletop game. I know, it sounds totally surprising, maybe even a little ridiculous, but let's look closer. 136. Let that number sink in for a second. That is the exact number of tiles in a standard set of Mahjong. You've got your east, south, west, north, center, fa, white, and all the different numbered suits. And because of this exact number, the possible arrangements create a purely astronomical mathematical combination. The text points out that you could literally play Mahjong every single day for an entire lifetime, and you would never, ever encounter the exact same arrangement of tiles twice. No way, right? It feels like an unpredictable labyrinth. When you step into a game, it feels entirely governed by chance, luck, and total uncertainty. So the absolutely crucial point here is how people explain winning and losing in this labyrinth. Players almost always attribute it to shaoqi or hand luck, but the source makes a super fascinating claim. Mahjong isn't actually random at all. Not even a little bit. It is a pure manifestation of Hundonic principles. Just consider the factors that supposedly govern your luck at the table. The text lists things like sleep deprivation, poor health, engaging in sexual activity within the last 24 hours, the physical compass direction you sit at the table, and the balance of the 5 elements among the players. It's pretty hilarious when you think about it. Your Friday night game of Mahjong being heavily dictated by how much sleep you got or your recent intimate life. But the text suggests that this seemingly random game perfectly aligns with these intensely personal, physical, and energetic states of the players. The chaos of the tiles is actually a highly sensitive hidden order. And this brilliantly illustrates a much larger philosophical framework. The author actually categorizes the different ways humanity attempts to process the universe's order. It's really quite revealing. For example, Confucian thinking is categorized as materialistic, essentially the most basic level. Western thinking, rooted heavily in science, is categorized as image-based and associative. Popular New Age concepts are grouped as illusory thinking. But Hundonic thinking? That is positioned as the deepest, absolute highest level of processing reality. It's the ability to see the hidden connections that logic simply cannot map. I want you to really reflect on this real-world paradox for a second, because we see it in society all the time. On one side, you have people who are incredibly well-educated, highly intelligent, kind-hearted, and unbelievably hardworking, yet they remain poor or completely lack societal power. On the flip side, we see individuals with very little formal education, who aren't particularly diligent or traditionally intelligent, yet they somehow accumulate massive wealth and secure powerful opportunities. It's frustrating, right? But the author argues that this is not a mistake or a bug in the system. Rather, these outcomes are perfect manifestations of Hundun in the real world. Which leads us perfectly to this really profound quote: "Cleverness can be one's own undoing." The ultimate irony here, at least according to Hundunic principles, is that trying to outsmart the system with pure traditional logic actually backfires on you. When you rely solely on your own calculated, rigid cleverness, you are actually isolating yourself from the broader holographic flow of the universe's hidden order. You're cutting yourself off from the source. The author provides a very specific real-world example to ground this idea. Mr. Zhang Baoseng. He is a renowned figure in China known for his special abilities. Now, the text points out that Song had very minimal formal education. However, rather than this being a hindrance or a setback, it actually allowed his mind to operate in an incredibly powerful Hundunic state. By not having his brain overloaded and boxed in with structured academic theories, he was allegedly able to tap into that deeper, hidden order of the universe we've been talking about. In fact, the text points out exactly what acts as a barrier to true cosmic understanding. So, what pushes us away from Hundun? Well, it's accumulating more concepts, embracing more strict moral doctrines, pursuing pure rationality, mastering more societal rules, seeking more desires. Do you notice something about this list? These are literally the exact behaviors that modern society praises, encourages, and rewards. Yet, this text argues that every piece of rigid knowledge and every strict rule you adopt actually pulls you further and further away from the natural flow of reality. So how do we get back? How do we return to this flow? Basically, we have to slow down and unlearn. The ancient philosopher Laozi advised us to return to the state of a newborn baby. Similarly, the text notes that Jesus urged his followers to become like little children. The core idea here is to strip away the complex, rigid frameworks that we've spent our entire adult life building up and return to a state of pure, unstructured receptivity. And this concept isn't isolated. It is echoed across multiple spiritual traditions. Buddha taught his followers to detach from all forms and let your mind dwell nowhere. Zhang Sanfeng similarly declared that the key to transcending the mortal realm lies in reversing the ordinary. Reaching this state of spiritual calm and tapping into that hidden order requires completely letting go of our human obsession with organizing reality into neat, logical little boxes. Wow, we have covered some incredible ground today, haven't we? From the flapping wings of an Alaskan butterfly to the mathematically staggering tiles of Mahjong, all just to catch a glimpse of the hidden order of Hundun. But I want to leave you with a question to really ponder long after this explainer is over. If the very rules, concepts, and logic you've spent your entire life mastering are actually pushing you further from the underlying truth of the universe, what are you willing to unlearn today? Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you next time.